Bruce, welcome to WPFW.
Thank you so much, Rusty. I'm so happy to be on the line with you.
Oh, boy, this is great. It's been a long-time friendship and finally catching up after, a bit of a hiatus between the two of us.
Yes.
So it's been great seeing you both with Renee Marie a couple of months ago at Blues Alley, and then again last couple of weeks ago at the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival with all those great bassists with Buster Williams.
Wow, that was really an experience.
Boy, Rufus Reed and Steve Novosel, that was really something. It was just so great to see these guys get recognized and you playing behind them.
And Buster, not to mention Buster, yeah.
Boy, Buster. Did you see the movie?
I'm planning to. I'm sorry I had to leave the next morning.
Yeah.
So I was able to stick around and see the movie, but I really hope to see it soon.
Wow, geez. So you just got back from what? Where were you traveling? You've been.
I was over in Lisbon and Seville.
Oh, wow. Geez, I have a hard time getting up to Baltimore. That's so wonderful. That really is.
I hear you.
Boy. So, for folks new to your music, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, playing the piano and what brought you to jazz.
Well, it's funny. I came up, my family, I was born in Pasadena, California. My family was from Newark. Sorry about the noise out here because I'm on the street in New York. But my family was from Newark, New Jersey originally, but my dad moved out to, my dad got a job in Southern California, so our family moved to Pasadena in the mid-'50s, and I was born there. And there was a thing in our family where all the kids had to take 1 year of music studies on an instrument of our choice. So there was always music in the house. I'm the youngest of four. There was guitar, even a little banjo, a little ukulele. Folk music was really big in the late 50s, early 60s. And there was a piano in the house. I just gravitated towards the piano. And so I played, I tended to play by ear. And then, years later, I started piano lessons. I loved it. And then, I grew up in the age before all the jazz education. So many people now have such a great head start with nice music programs in their schools. Definitely. This was not happening when I was coming up. And so when I was 15, my brother gave me my first jazz record. It was a Mose Allison record called Backcountry Suite,
wow, sure.
Which to this day I love.
Wow, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I started, I'd listen to the radio and hear different musicians. I remember the first time we had a great jazz radio station in New York, WRBR.
Sure.
And I remember for the first time hearing that fat Freddie Hubbard sound. I still remember that. And I was like, man, who the heck is that? And then they said, that's Freddie Hubbard, such and such.
Wow.
And, back in those days, which I may remember in those days, Rusty, we didn't have the Internet. You'd go out, you heard Freddie Hubbard, wow, go to the record store.
Right.
And you'd say, wow, they had like a jazz section. There was even a department store in New York called Corvettes. And you'd go to the jazz section and say, hey, do you have any Freddie Hubbard? And there was a guy there who knew.
Mm-hmm.
So different.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant, I think in a way, it meant a lot because it took the effort. You went, you got the record, you get so excited.
Oh, absolutely. I would buy jazz albums without hearing them ahead of time, and
yes, exactly.
That sound of surprise when you got home, Miles Davis, at the Black Hawk, stuff like that. So when just really
man, what a record! What a record!
It was new, and this Cowboys, I think, was the department store I went to. It's really remarkable. But in any case, what got you started playing professionally?
I think I knew from the time I was in my early 20s that I really wanted to try to make a go of it. And I lived in New York briefly, and one big impact on me was Norman Simmons, great pianist.
Sure.
And he taught me, and I really thought I wanted to make a go of it. And I actually, kind of had a hard time in New York, and I ended up moving out of town for a while. And I came back to New York in the late 80s. And I think by then, because I think, when I was in my early 20s, I wasn't really ready. I was kind of a late bloomer. I wasn't really ready to participate in the scene. But I think by the time I moved back in the late 80s, I think I was about 30 when I moved back to New York. And I think I was a little bit readier. Mm-hmm. And one thing that was really important for me was I knew when I moved back to New York, I wanted to have a place where I could play jam sessions in my house. So I moved to an apartment in Brooklyn. I had a set of drums because and a lot of fantastic players came by. Just by luck, some of the first musicians I met were some wonderful players like Steve Wilson, the alto saxophonist, Billy Drummond, James Genus, the bass player, Sam Newsom, saxophonist, with whom I later worked in the band of Terrence Blanchard. Bill Stewart used to come by to play. Terrence Blanchard would come by. Vincent Herring. It was a great time. You know, to this day, I mean, New Yorkers love to play jam sessions. Of course, there are jam sessions in clubs, but also equally significantly are jam sessions in people's apartments. And that's really where you get a lot of stuff together, you know, because you have people come over and play. And I think I always say, you know, I thought my first year, I lived in Boston for about 6 years before I moved to New York, and I think I got better. My first year in New York, I feel like my musicianship grew more than in my 6 years in Boston. Just from being that environment, playing with cats. Wow. And then I'd go out every night to hear music, you know, hear people. And then I was very fortunate because shortly after moving there, I did some touring with Vincent Herring, Stanley Turrentine, and then I joined Terrence Blanchard's band in 1990. And I played with Terrence for 4 years. And then since then, I had a lot of just fruitful collaborations.
Right, people just in the word of mouth, people catch up with you. You know, it was like I don't remember the year, but I remember, you know, it's like sometimes you had those down times, and you played at Twins Jazz.
Yes.
On Colorado Avenue.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Boy, it's just it was you know, wonderful for me. You know, like,
oh, thank you, Rusty, and you were so. Thank you. You were so supportive. You always played records.
You know, it was really, really remarkable. You actually, and I had this conversation with Renee Marie. I've been seeing her a lot. I was actually at her first performance at Blues Alley back in the 90s. But you actually produced and worked with her on her first album or one of those early albums?
I actually worked with her on 5 CDs.
Wow, okay. Wow.
And what happened was I met Richard McDonald, who was the owner of Max Jazz.
Sure. And
I met Richard originally when I was playing in St. Louis. And Richard actually started the label recording St. Louis artists. And then when he wanted to go national, he actually asked me to work with him. And I produced several records. And actually, Renee was one of his first artists whom he signed. By chance, Richard he would travel a lot. He was a jazz lover. Unfortunately, he passed about probably 5-6 years ago.
Right. Wow.
But he was a real jazz lover, and whenever he traveled on business, he would always go to hear music. And just by chance, he was in Washington, D.C., and Renee was playing, I think, her first gig at
Blues Alley.
Very much so, and he heard, and he just loved her, and he signed her on the spot. And he asked me to produce Renee. And Renee, from the time I met her, I just thought, wow, not only a great musician, but a wonderful person. And we've had a long, fruitful musical relationship. So I produced 5 records of Renee's, co-produced, because Renee was involved, very much artistically involved. And as time went on, she became more and more just more knowledgeable and really creating really more involved in the process of directing her music. And I actually worked with her. It was great seeing you with her, because I work with her once in a while.
Yeah.
We've always had a special rapport. I think she's one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite human beings. So it's always, and anytime I get a chance to work with her, which hasn't been that frequently, but it's always been a real thrill for me. I think she's so good.
Well, you have a unique situation coming up Sunday and Monday. You're working with another artist, however, it's a pianist.
Yes.
Edie Hamamoto is working with you with 4 hands on the piano. How is that going to work out? How's that?
I'll tell you what's happened. It's really interesting. Edie Hamamoto is a wonderful pianist and composer, and she's actually, at this point, I think we both released about 12 CDs as leaders in our own names. Eddie's also she's worked with some great musicians, William Parker, the wonderful bassist and composer.
Oh, yeah, really.
She's done several projects with William, and recently, I don't think it's out yet, but she actually recorded a solo piano recording of his works, and that's an honor to be asked to record a solo piano CD of the works. Anyway, so she's worked extensively, but apart from working with William and other musicians, she's been a prolific composer and recording artist, written many, many wonderful songs. And so we've done several gigs, and initially we started this project together. It's not we both do more of our own things, but from time to time we collaborate. And initially we were doing it on two pianos. And then, I'll be honest with you, we had a gig in Princeton. Our friend Maitland Jones does a wonderful series called Jazz Nights in Princeton.
Okay.
He and Mary Wisnowski, they're partners, and they produce wonderful concerts. So we were thinking, okay, Maitland has a very nice Steinway down at his place. And the initial plan was to bring a Rhodes. Sometimes Eddie and I would play concerts where there were two pianos. In this case, if there weren't, we'd bring a keyboard. And we were thinking about bringing a Rhodes so we could each be on our own piano. And this particular concert, we said, man, we got kind of lazy.
Okay, did it on one piano. And
we said, you know what, because we would have had to rent a car, bring the Rhodes down.
Sure, okay.
And we thought, hey, let's just take the train down and play four hands on the piano. And, people I think they loved just the whole, not only the music, but the visual aspect of four hands, one piano. Because we move around, we switch places, and even when we're in one place, there's a lot of back and forth, crossing over. It gets a little chaotic sometimes, but it's kind of exciting, and it's very, it's kind of kinetic. And so there's that whole visual aspect of it. And once we saw the reaction there, we never played two pianos again. It's always been four hands on one piano.
Awesome.
And we've done it from time to time. We're not always doing it, because usually we're more likely to play with our own groups. But we did a tour of Europe last year where we played several cities on four hands, one piano. And it's something that we do from time to time. We really enjoy it. And so, sorry about the noise out here. I'm on the street in New York. So we're really looking forward to our gigs. We're playing Sunday on the Music in Baltimore, and then Saturday at the Arts Center.
What time in Baltimore at Undy Music? It's afternoon?
It's going to be 2 p.m.
2 p.m.? Okay, yeah.
2 p.m. in Baltimore, and then our concert in D.C. is 7 o'clock.
I just talked to Charles Tolliver earlier this evening, who's at that same wonderful environment at Undy Music. He'll be there Friday and Saturday with Buster Williams and Lenny White, so I'm really excited.
Oh, my God.
So I will trek up to Baltimore Saturday to catch him.
You're going to have, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So you'll be
Charles Tolliver, what a master.
Wow. So you're at the Arts Club on Monday here in Washington. The Arts Club.
Yes.
It's located at 2017 I Street Northwest.
Yes.
It's part of a whole series that Burnett Thompson's been doing for years now.
He's been doing great stuff. And Burnett's I met Burnett a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I love his work as a pianist and composer. He's a very unique artist.
Absolutely.
With a really unique perspective,
He's been doing an incredible array of concerts there. In fact, he had Spike Wilner there a couple of years ago. That was a lot of fun. And I see the album I have queued up here is from Live at Small. So, again, for information on the Arts Club, you can email Burnett at pianojazz.com for ticket information. And this is Monday night at 7 p.m., Arts Club of Washington, 2017 I Street Northwest. Well, although you and Erie are going to be playing together, we'll have to play you sequentially on this show. Since
we have not recorded together.
We're looking forward to that also. I haven't gotten any pledges for a while here on our fundraising show. I'm asking people to call 202-588-9739, and I wonder if you give a word or two about why they should support WPFW here in Washington with the music that we're doing, and how important it is for you as artists to be able to get the word out.
You know, I will say that WPFW, you guys have been on the air so long, playing this wonderful music that we consider, I really consider one of America's, if not the greatest, one of the greatest contributions to world culture. And especially these days, with everything going on, we need beauty, we need music more than ever. And to me, I mean, jazz has been such an important part of my life, and I've also seen how it's uplifted so many people. It's just such a wonderful art form. Well, and the fact you guys have been really championing this music for so many years, I'm grateful.
Well, thank you. Yes, folks, I'll show your support now. 202-588-9739 or pledge online at WPFWFM.org. Bruce, I want to thank you for calling in after your gig tonight, and again, Sunday afternoon at Ondi Music, and Monday night, 7 p.m. at the Arts Club of Washington. Again, that's at 2017 I Street, with Edie Hamamoto duo on the piano. It's fantastic. We're gonna feature you sequentially. Got Sunday queued up with Live at Smalls. Vincente Archie and Rudy Royston. Thanks again for calling in, Bruce.
Thank you, Rusty. And I will say that I think people might find it a lot of fun. If you haven't seen a four-hand piano, you don't see it that often, four-hand jazz piano.
Absolutely.
And we kind of mix it up, and I like to say we make a mess sometimes.
Okay, great.
But Bruce, it's really fun to watch. And I really thank you so much for having me, Rusty.
It's my pleasure. Bruce Barth at the Arts Club, Monday night, 7 p.m. Here's Sunday.